Well, will wonders never cease? Part of me is surprised and part of me isn't. But I'll get more into that later. But so far, Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, aka Suicide Squad 2, whatever, is getting great reviews from most critics. It seems like, at least if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, all the critics love it. It has a 100%, as of now. I'm sure this is going to go down a bit into the 90s or 80s over the course of the next few weeks. But it looks like, DC has a critical hit on its hands, right? Let's take a look over at Metacritic. Right now, it's at 77%. I have to admit, I don't go on Metacritic that much, so I don't understand how it works. I know the way Metacritic rates movies is different from how Rotten Tomatoes does it. Neither one of these sites is very scientific or anything like that. And, a lot of us, especially DC fans, say critic reviews and sites like Metacritic, aggregators like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes don't matter. But it's hypocritical for us to say that, because the only time people say critics don't matter is when like a movie they like is getting trashed. When the critics say a movie is good, everybody's all like, everybody thinks the critics and that Rotten Tomatoes and Metascore are great, right? And DC fans are like that, right? Like when critics trash a DC movie, we say, this is for the fans, or critics don't matter, or they're out of touch. But when they like a DC movie, it's like, yay! So yeah, I do admit that it is somewhat hypocritical when people, are all about critics when the critics, like what they like. But anyways, so part of me, I guess you could say, is surprised, sort of, because, critics usually don't like DC movies, or at least they didn't in the past. But that's actually been changing a bit, right? Because a lot of the last, few DC movies, they've been getting pretty good reviews. Like Birds of Prey got good reviews. I think Wonder Woman 1984 got good reviews. Shazam got good reviews. So, critics, I guess, they're not being as harsh to DC as they typically are. The Snyder Cut, I think, got pretty decent reviews for the most part. And a lot of critics and journalists hate Zack Snyder. So, I guess they are turning a bit of a corner. We saw the start of that a bit when Aquaman came out. Now, I know a lot of critics were really dogging Aquaman more than they should, but Aquaman, when you looked at its Rotten Tomatoes score, I think it was in the 60s or 70s. At the time it came out, Aquaman got in the 60s, and that's better than what DC movies were getting back in, the BVS original Suicide Squad days, right? Those got in the 20%, 30%, or somewhere around there. And Man of Steel was only in the 60s. And so I think Aquaman was the start of maybe a shift into a bit more of a positive reception for DC movies. Because, DC movies now for the last year or so have been doing a lot better overall, critics-wise, than they did in the old days. So, I guess we can stop using that excuse of, critics and stuff are biased against DC. Because, it does seem like, at least based on the evidence in the last few years, they are less biased than they were before. Now, another part of me isn't surprised at all because, the online chatter for The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, has been really positive. When those social media reviews came out, I did a video about those Twitter reactions. They were all pretty good. Now, I did say in that video, we cannot always trust, Twitter reactions, because a lot of times these critics will tweet things out. And when you see the actual reviews that come out, the full-fledged articles and videos, a lot of them will seem to hate something when it sounded like they thought it was cool when they were just talking about it on Twitter. So it could have been the same thing with the Suicide Squad, but it looks like it's not, at least so far. It's the first day. This is only the first day of reviews coming out, full reviews. The review embargo lifted, and there's going to be now that the movie is getting seen by people, there's going to be more reviews coming out. So we'll see over the next 2 weeks what the general consensus is with the critics. Of course, the critics are one story, the fans are another story. But I do think that, at least critically, the Suicide Squad is going to be another feather in DC's cap, right? DC's been getting a lot more of those positive critical feathers lately than they did in the old days. So, this is good. If you're a DCEU fan, or just someone who likes DC Comics movies, you should celebrate. I can't wait to see it. I see the Suicide Squad tomorrow night. I was one of those people fortunate enough to get a promo screening ticket, so I'm going Thursday night, and I am excited. thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.